cycles जो होती हैं, how violent those cycles are? Because I've seen some of the 17-18 companies में जो आई थी वो delist ही हो गया.
In the bull market, everybody wants to buy that limited liquidity and price goes to any level.
What is a typical checklist type approach that you follow? What are those some of the nuances that you are looking at?
Now, if I go and buy this company today, I'm not saying this 1.2 cannot go to 1. It can go to 1. But from how much will I lose? I lose 16% of my capital.
हम लोग ये पॉडकास्ट बेयर मार्केट पे क्यों कर रहे हैं? आई डोंट नो इस पे कितने लोग देखेंगे नहीं देखेंगे, बट होपफुली दे गेट अ ट्रू पिक्चर ऑफ व्हाट द रियलिटी ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग इन स्मॉल कंपनीज इज.
So as on today, we stand at around 65% median drawdown for companies which are below 5,000 crore market cap.
जब ये साइकिल्स होती हैं तो उस टाइम पे तो मतलब फिर हाइंडसाइट में लगता है कि यार साइकिल होगी, बट यहाँ पे स्टॉक्स ऐसा नहीं 10-20% गिरते हैं, 70-80-90% भी गिर जाते हैं. हाय इन्वेस्टर्स, वेलकम टू एसओआईसी. तो आज के इस पॉडकास्ट में हम क्या सीखेंगे दैट वी आर होस्टिंग समवन हु डज माइक्रो कैप इन्वेस्टिंग. तो माइक्रो कैप इन्वेस्टिंग में बहुत एक इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ क्या है कि साइकिल्स होती हैं, एंड टू बी एबल टू हैंडल दीज साइकिल्स you need the stomach to sit through the drawdowns and the upside rallies. So we are hosting Gaurav from 91 Capital, and he is someone who's been doing microcap investing for the last 15 years. He used to work at one of the leading institutional firms that done a massive outperformance versus the benchmarks. And in this video, what we'll be discussing, कि last 15 years में what has been his experience with microcap investing. हिस्टोरिकली ड्रॉडाउन्स कितने होते हैं, जैसे आप पॉडकास्ट में एक बार देखेंगे कि तो ही ऑल्सो मेंशन कि भाई 60% का भी ड्रॉडाउन हुआ है, एंड वहाँ से फिर रिकवरी भी कितनी स्विफ्टली होती है, एंड ये बुल बेयर मार्केट साइकिल्स जो होती है माइक्रो कैप में, ये कितना लॉन्ग के लिए लास्ट कर सकती है और कैसे होती है. बिकॉज अ लॉट ऑफ द टाइम्स पीपल चेज द व्हाट हैज डन द बेस्ट इन द रीसेंट टाइम्स. जैसे रीसेंसी बायस होती है कि रिसेंटली अगर प्रेशियस मेटल अच्छा करा तो लोग प्रेशियस मेटल्स को चेज करेंगे, रिसेंटली अगर इंटरनेशनल इक्विटीज करी तो इंटरनेशनल इक्विटी को चेज करेंगे. But a lot of times what happens is that every asset class goes through a cycle. So microcap as an asset class is going through a cycle right now, and we are covering this asset class when it is going through its worst cycle. Because some of these companies are below 1000 crore market cap, जहाँ पे less than 100 PAN cards a day की trading होती है. Right, and इस टाइम पे तो यहाँ पे liquidity evaporate हो चुकी है. I don't even know कि कितने retail investors इस वीडियो में interested होंगे. But for SOIC members, these are the videos to watch because this will make you realize कि कैसे cycles play out होती हैं. And why at this point of time studying about this particular asset class or studying about these particular companies can really help you to realize कि जब when the going gets bad कि how bad it can get, and when the going gets good कि कितनी अच्छी upside भी आ सकती है ऐसी companies में. So with this, let's start the podcast. Thank you so much for doing this, Gaurav. And we are actually, as a SOIC community, we are basically glad that we are hosting you, because idea of doing these podcasts, I think the SOIC community also understands, is to look at different market segments, meet different investors, and to get their perspective about investing. गौरव, फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन आता है आई थिंक, क्योंकि आप काफ़ी कंपनीज देखते हो जिनका मार्केट कैप में भी समटाइम्स लेस देन 1000 करोड़ भी है, या 2000 करोड़ है, या टिल 3000 करोड़ मार्केट कैप है. तो हाउ डू यू क्लासिफाई द मार्केट? बिकॉज अगर हम सेबी की डेफिनेशन से देखें स्मॉल कैप्स को, तो निफ्टी स्मॉल कैप 250 में सबसे पहले दो जो स्टॉक्स हैं, एक का मार्केट कैप 50 to 60,000 करोड़ है और दूसरे का मार्केट कैप 50,000 करोड़ है. दैट इज एमसीएक्स एंड लॉल्स.
Correct.
बट जो जिस टाइप की इन्वेस्टिंग और जिस टाइप के स्टॉक्स की अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं, तो वो तो आज इन्वेस्टिंग आउट ऑफ फेवर भी हो रखी है बाकी.
Yes.
तो हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट सेगमेंटेशन प्लेज अ रोल इन दिस?
Thank you so much, Ishmoit, for hosting me here. I've seen the kind of guests you have had before, so the bar is really high for me to meet. And I also like to congratulate you on the kind of work you put out on YouTube. More than the stocks discussed, you give a lot of industry insights, a way to think about different industries, which is really helpful for retail investors and other investors in general. Now, coming to this particular segment of microcaps. So, as per SEBI definition, as you rightly said, in the small caps, the largest company is 50-60,000 crore. But in this stretch, it is not a small cap. In microcap, the smallest company is 4,000 crore. And below that, there are 3,500 odd companies, right? Of which a lot of them have been listed for like 15 years, 20 years. They are leaders in their niches. So, I particularly operate in that particular zone, which is below 4,000 crore market cap. And the reason why I do so is twofold. One is, if you look at all the AIFs, PMS who have established teams, they are of a size where even if they need to take 2% allocation in these companies, they will end up buying 20% of the free float, right? So
Right.
by that definition, they cannot operate here. So largely the competition is with HNIs, with family offices. And if you bring a disciplined process-oriented thinking to come and invest here, then your chances of success becomes higher in this segment.
सो वन थिंग दैट ऑल्सो कम्स कि देखो इसमें भी साइकिल्स होती हैं आई थिंक
Correct.
बिकॉज यू बीन इन्वेस्टिंग फॉर लास्ट 14-15 years तो यू विल ऑल्सो रिकग्नाइज दिस तो आई थिंक ऑडियंस के साथ एक जो क्वेश्चन आता है कि लाइक वी हैव बीन इंटरेक्टिंग विद अ लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स ओवर लास्ट 4-5 years तो 2022-23 में व्हेन आई यूज्ड टू मीट इन्वेस्टर्स तो a lot of them wanted to be full time SME investors
Correct.
और फुल टाइम स्मॉल कैप इन्वेस्टर्स
Correct.
बट अभी रिसेंटली कोई इसकी बात नहीं करता सब बात करते हैं मल्टी एसेट फंड्स की मतलब
Gold funds की.
मल्टी एसेट फंड की उसमें गोल्ड भी होएगा सिल्वर भी होएगा इक्विटी भी होएगी
Yeah.
राइट तो यहाँ पे क्वेश्चन आता है कि साइकिल्स जो होती हैं हाउ वायलेंट दो साइकिल्स आर बिकॉज आई हैव सीन सम ऑफ द 17-18 कंपनीज
Yeah.
में जो आई थी वो डीलिस्ट ही होगी मतलब कोई शिपिंग विपिंग की भी कंपनीज आई थी माइक्रो कैप पे
Correct.
and as a retail investor who's watching this कि why it is important to understand the nature of these cycles because जब ये cycles होती हैं तो उस टाइम पे तो मतलब फिर
Yeah.
हाइंडसाइड में लगता है कि यार साइकिल होगी बट यहाँ पे स्टॉक्स ऐसा नहीं 10-20% गिरते हैं 70-80-90% भी गिर जाते हैं
Yes. So see, cycles are very brutal here, and the reason why they're brutal is because the liquidity is very less. And when the liquidity is very less, it works both ways. In the bull market, everybody wants to buy that limited liquidity, and price goes to any level, right? I remember 2023-24, some of the small cap companies were trading at valuations in terms of their valuation multiples higher than the large cap multiples, right? They were trading at 2030, 2035 sales and PAT. The same thing works on the other way also when there is no liquidity to sell, right? So there is no buyer left. So the prices can go to any level. If there is any HNI who has got a margin call and who needs to sell something, he will come and sell at anything, irrespective of wherever the P ratio is. Right. So very beautifully, I say this thing like in these kind of market caps, like below 4,000 crore, there is no fair value. Right, fair value is just as good as that day's price, right? And whenever you go and buy or sell any stock in a bear market, you should be okay to pay 5% higher or lower, right? And ultimately that is what is happening. You see any bid ask spread these days, it's a 10% lower price, which a buyer is standing upon. So there is no like liquidity, and that's what explains the such large volatility in these stock prices for these companies. But that creates an opportunity also, by the way. Right? If you are a patient investor, you have done your homework, you know that the company can grow at a much faster rate than what it has been growing at, and people are not even looking at that company. Then you can take this benefit to come and buy on days like this.
So any examples from the past where you would have seen कि there was nothing wrong in the business, results were good, everything was happening
Yeah.
well, management was executing, stock fell 50-60% on no news, then the recovery was also equally ferocious. Like
So I remember two examples come to my mind. One is Apar Industries. In 2020 July, right? I was there publicly in the public call, right? And there were no one else. Like there were just three people asking questions on the call. And in the call, we could like get everything, whatever we could ask for, right? Whatever information we wanted to get on the business, on their order book, everything. And they gave the kind of information to us, like public information, which is given in the VPT also, that and it was trading at just 8p for a company which was going to grow like 300% in the next 3 years, right? And the next day stock was on minus 5% socket. So you could buy as much as you wanted to buy, right? And it was just like 1,000 crore company that time.
right.
Similar thing happened with another company called Force Motors. It was trading below book value, right? And a lot of developments were happening. You look at their balance sheet, they had invested like maybe cumulatively 1,500 crore from 2020 to 2022, right? On the EV side, on developing new products. Then one fine day, one independent director from Inam came and joined their board, which was a signal, at least to me, that things are changing for something better. So those are the opportunities. You have to have a very long list of companies which you keep track, and you have to know their businesses, know the prices at which it becomes like so good that your chances of losing money effectively becomes zero over a 2 to 3 year period,
Right.
and that's when you go and hit that return.
In terms like, do you think that current market is also like this at the moment?
Yes, I definitely feel so. I'm not the one calling the bottom because, as I said, prices can go anywhere, right?
Right.
A cheap company can become cheaper. 10p company can become a 5p company. I have bought companies at 4p also, 1p also. So effectively, A lot of that can happen. But if I give you a certain data point, so I think last week we shared this thing on our Substack. If you look at the median drawdown of companies which are below 5,000 crore, and you look at for 10,000 crore, 20,000 crore, 1 lakh crore and above, right? And you compare it with 5th or 7th April 2025.
Right.
The reason why I'm saying 7th April, because that was the bottom level of 2025. That was after the tariff related news came out of US, right? So all these, the companies which are above 10,000 crore, the kind of drawdown they had as on 7th April 2025, they have recovered from that drawdown. They are now down only 13 to 15%. It means they have gone up by 15% from that lower point. But when you look the same data for companies which are below 5,000 crore, they have gone down actually 5% more,
Hmm.
right, from that level. So as on today, we stand at around 65% median drawdown for companies which are below 5,000 crore market cap.
Well, on an average, these stocks would have fallen 65%.
Yes.
That is the companies below 4,000 crores.
Yes.
Hmm.
When you look at this data in the last cycle,
Yeah.
first Jan 2018 was kind of a peak, first week of 2018. And you take prices as on Feb, because March was one of the century kind of a period. You can't take March 2020 because of COVID.
Right.
But when you take Feb 2020 level, right, that time it was around 68%. It went on to 82% because of that March 2020's dislocation. But today we are at around 63%. Now, I am not saying that 63% will go to 68% and that's how it will take a U-turn or V-shaped recovery. It can certainly go to 70%.
Right.
But from now, you see a lot of companies where the value is like very visible in front of your eyes. You can see a whole lot of companies which are at 10p, 12p, 5p, right? As compared to 2 years back, where you open any random screener, it would be making a new high. It would be trading at 25, 30p. So that has come down a lot. And for a person who is tracking this segment, who knows a couple of things about the company, knows the management, understand business, have some sense of the valuation, it's a great time to scout in that.
So, any well, I'm not saying you to give us stock names,
Yes.
but because it's a low liquidity
Yes.
names. But can you just talk about some of the dislocations or examples of
Yes.
today? Not naming names, but सेक्टर की बात कर लें या फिर उन जो मतलब मैनेजमेंट की बात कर लें तो दैट विल आई थिंक विल बी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग.
See, in this segment, you can play anything. A growth investor can go and buy growth companies at, visible growth companies at a higher PE or higher valuations. You can play cyclical. You can play VC. You all the kinds of things that are available to you in the larger cap categories above 10,000 crore. Those companies are available in this segment as well. I particularly at 9-1 Capital, we are very bottoms up, right? Whenever we look at any stock, we don't matter what is happening in the sector or what is happening in the economy. Couple of stocks, one framework which we very well use is we look at the valuations today as compared to March 2020, Feb 2020, and then in the bad cycle of 2016 when Demon happened, and then 2013 August also, right? We try to take a sense of how the valuations were in those low points of markets. Then we look at the balance sheet, whether the balance sheet has improved or deteriorated from that level. We see business whether there is any disruption risk. 2020 there was no EV risk. Today, it for an auto company, EV risk is the first thing. Whether the products are agnostic to ICE and EV. There was no AI risk at least in 2020. So you have to get that contextual aware.
Hmm.
Now, one company which is into eggs and poultry, that company's balance sheet has improved, right? Their related parties similar to what it has been for the last 15 years. It's not a new information. The price to book in March 2020 was 1.2. It is today 1.2, right?
Right.
Now, the company's model, can it be challenged by AI or by EV? I don't think so, right? They have only gained market share in their core categories.
Right.
Now, if I go and buy this company today, I'm not saying this 1.2 cannot go to 1. It can go to 1. But from how much will I lose? I lose 16% of my capital, right? But if things start turning around from here, right, and cycle to cycle of small caps also turn around, let's say over a 2-year period. Now, this company has gotten 5 times book value also, right? And the reason why I use book value is because it's an asset back, because currently profits are zero, right? So you tend to look at book values for these kind of cyclical companies. So there is a sense, even if you don't have to take very aggressive assumptions for you to have a good amount of money. You just can assume that can it trade at 2.5x book value, which was like lower quartile of the last 10 years valuation, right? You don't have to take very aggressive assumptions on PAT growth, this, that, right? But even if your net worth goes up by 20% in the next 2 years, you multiple goes up from 1.2, 1.3x to 2.5x. You have a clear 3x. And
Right.
you don't have to do a lot of things. Don't have to go right on everything, right? Similarly, a couple of cement companies which are operating in South, right? I'm not naming them genuinely. They are trading at $30 to $40 per ton capacity, USD per ton capacity. If you put the similar kind of capacity, they have limestone reserves, 80, 40 to 50% energy requirements are also via captive. And if you see the similar deals that have happened in the M&A category over the last 2 years, these kind of assets have gone at $80 to $90 per ton.
Right.
So you don't have much to lose. Now, the prices of cement, at least for these companies, they are on absolute basis lower than what they were in 2015, right? So 11 years, there was no pricing growth. But if you see year by year pricing, there were years where prices have gone up by 20% also. And a 5 rupee increase in bag results in 10% increase in EBITDA. That is the kind of operating leverage these companies trade at, right? Balance sheet risk is virtually not there. So we are coming across these kind of opportunities where we don't know whether the things will turn around like 1 month or 5, 6 months away. But we know that the companies are going to stay. They are available to us at a valuation where we don't see any reason to lose money over a 2 year period. And we are happy to buy them at this prices. So poultry farm is one. Then, these are all like cyclical companies. Even the growth companies, one jeweler, which is going to grow its earnings by around 45% CAGR in the next 3 years, where execution risk is not much there. They are not going to dilute capital, right? So that company is available to at below 10p. And I'm saying trailing. I'm not saying like 2 year forward numbers and
Right.
assuming some crazy assumptions. And one also reason, which we missed discussing why the cycle is more brutal for these smaller companies, and that's a very important point, is capital dilution, right? A small company, a person buys typically for growth. And for growth, you need capital. And for capital, you have to be dependent on markets. And if you're dependent on markets, markets are not in your control, right? If any company goes and starts raising money via pref or warrant, nobody's going to give them money. I'm coming across a lot of press releases where warrant issue happened 1 year back, but now promoters themselves are not, ordering those warrants.
Right.
So they are dependent on the capital markets for raising that capital, the equity capital. If they are not able to raise that equity capital, obviously, and if they don't grow at that rate, they won't deserve that kind of multiple. So it's kind of a vicious, reflexive cycle which is happening in these categories.
तो बेसिकली कि क्योंकि आपको इक्विटी कैपिटल रेज करना है मार्केट से ग्रो करने के लिए,
Yes.
एंड अब क्योंकि इक्विटी मार्केट की वैल्यूएशन ही बैठी है, अब आपको कोई पैसा देना नहीं चाह रहा क्योंकि प्रेफ इशूज कैंसिल हो रहे हैं, बहुत सारी कंपनीज में कैंसिल हुए हैं.
Yes.
तो देन इट इज अ थ्योरी ऑफ रिफ्लेक्सिविटी कि
Correct.
लोअर प्राइसेस इज इक्वल टू नो इक्विटी रेजेस
So-
विच इज इक्वल टू नो ग्रोथ.
No growth. And the
You-
multiples will collapse.
Right. Which
No.
was opposite it just 1-2 years back.
Yes.
So it's a funny story. I think a lot of audience needs. I think I've not told this story. I think I was discussing this with you.
Yeah.
So there was a company which was doing a fundraise in solar sector, and there were some 180, 190 applicants in the pref. मतलब मैंने ऐसा नहीं देखा आज तक कि प्रेफ का जो पेज है, नंबर ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स, उसमें 9 या 10 पेजेस तक थे. So one of the guys I knew, I just called him, why are you investing in this company? Valuation is crazy, 50, 60 times earnings. So his reply was, yeah, मेरा नाम आ जाएगा. So that type of indiscipline
Yes.
also started taking place.
The similar kind of indiscipline is happening today in the unlisted space,
Right.
which like picked up like in the last 1-2 years a lot.
In the unlisted space,
In the
right?
unlisted space, yeah.
Right. Unlisted is far more difficult also, I feel.
Yeah, but people like it for reasons like, first of all, they can brag about it in their social circle that I am invested in this unlisted company, which means I have access to investment bankers.
Right.
Second, they don't get to see the prices. And if you don't get to see the prices, you get to feel that ostrich effect that things are okay,
Right.
So I think that is the bias people have for unlisted, which people had for preference warrant issue 2 years back.
Now, just before going forward, on 28th and 29th March, we are doing an AI investing bootcamp. So what you will learn in this AI investing bootcamp कि AI को यूज़ करके how we can multiply our productivity. कि अगर हम रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, किसी कंपनी को पढ़ रहे हैं, किसी इंडस्ट्री को पढ़ रहे हैं, या फिर स्क्रीनिंग की बात कर रहे हैं, चाहे डोमेस्टिक स्टॉक्स हो या इंटरनेशनल बिजनेसेस हो, तो हम AI को यूज़ करके इस सारे प्रोसेस को कैसे कट शॉर्ट कर सकते हैं. सो दिस इज व्हाट वी लर्न इन ओवर अ क्लास दैट विल लास्ट फॉर ऑलमोस्ट 6.5 to 7 hours ओवर द वीकेंड. इसके साथ साथ क्या है कि ऑल दीज कोर्सेज एंड वेबिनार्स दैट वी डू आर पार्ट ऑफ वन SYC मेंबरशिप, जहाँ पे हम आपको ये सिखाते हैं कि आप फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग कैसे कर सकते हैं, फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस कैसे कर सकते हैं, then how you can find an intrinsic valuation of companies, how you can do technical analysis, and how you can scan for stocks. And साथ साथ ये जो AI investing course है, it's an additional bonus which is included in the SOIC membership. So you can use a one-time coupon code SOICAI10 to register for the SOIC membership in the description box below. So Gaurav, before we go forward, I think 2 points जो मैं आपके साथ और डीप डाइव करना चाहूँगा। तो आई थिंक पहला पॉइंट है कि आपने कहा 2013, 2016, 2020 के वैल्यूएशंस का।
Yes.
So what are those metrics that you're looking at to see कि ओवरऑल माइक्रो कैप सेक्टर की या फिर इंडेक्स की क्या वैल्यूएशन होगी? एक तो वो है।
Hmm.
एंड सेकंड क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि आपने बहुत अच्छे अभी पीछे ब्लॉग्स लिखे सबस्टैक पे, आपने उसपे मेंशन करा कि यार मतलब लिक्विडिटी ऐसी इवेपोरेट हो गई है कि नंबर ऑफ पैन कार्ड्स
हाँ.
इन्वॉल्व्ड इन वन ऑफ द स्टॉक्स ट्रेडिंग वाज लेस देन 100, राइट?
Yes.
तो बोथ द पॉइंट्स इफ यू कैन जस्ट डू अ डीपर डाइव ऑन, बिकॉज
Hmm.
अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम्स क्या है कि हम लोग फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस सिखाते हैं,
Right.
बिकॉज अर्निंग्स इज व्हाट कैरीज द वेट ओवर अ लॉन्ग पीरियड ऑफ
Yes.
टाइम। बट पी में जो परसेप्शन रेशियो है,
Correct.
अगर नियर टर्म में 1-2 साल अगर परसेप्शन हिट हो गया, अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ आते भी रहती है, तो देन पीपल ऑफन थिंक यार अर्निंग्स तो अच्छी आ रही हैं,
Yes.
बट पी रेशियो डी-रेट हो गई है।
सोलर में जैसा हो रहा है आजकल,
आजकल जैसा सोलन
नंबर अच्छे आ रहे हैं लेकिन रीरेट हो रहा है.
राइट।
Yes.
तो हाउ आर यू व्यूइंग ओवरऑल मार्केट वैल्यूएशंस? व्हाट आर द मेट्रिक्स दैट यू यूज? एंड सेकंडली लिक्विडिटी को कैसे आप मेजर करते हो, एंड
Correct.
व्हाट इज द इम्पैक्ट ऑफ दैट लिक्विडिटी ऑन दिस पर्टिकुलर सेगमेंट ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग?
Typically, you would see like there are like a bunch 600 companies which have been listed in this category since last 15 years, right? Now, what we have done, we have taken 20 companies based on certain parameters, and we have plotted their PE, price to book, EV, EBITDA, EV, EBIT, adjusted, right? And then we see what that we give an equal weight to all 20 of them, 5% each kind of weight, and then you see how the valuations have come down from that level, right, across this time period. So August 2013 was the lowest point in the last 15 years. I'm not including the GFC period 2008, but let's, because data issue was also there, right? So from 2011 till 2026 March, right, you have these 15-16 years of data. August 2013 remains the lowest point in that cycle in terms of valuation. All these benchmark, PE ले लो आप, price to equity ले लो, मतलब PE, price to book ले लो या EV, EBITDA ले लो. But when you start getting seeing the data of November 2016, which was a demon period where fall happened for 2-3 months, then Feb 2020, and there was a small correction in the 2013 beginning also till June, and now, and also April 2025. So you see, in terms of price to book, because I follow price to book more closely because P has a lot of nuances, right? Because margin ऊपर चला गया, नीचे चला गया, the P gets haphazard. So in terms of price to book in 2020, we were at 1.1x, right? Feb 2020. Now we are at 1.25x price to book. So the similar ratio of August 2020, 2013 was at 0.75x.
2013 में कितना था?
August 0.75.
0.75.
So abhi we are at 1.25. Feb 2020 we are at 1. We were at 1.1x.
And during the peak of the bull run in 2024, how much?
That was 4.4x.
4.4 times.
Yes.
This is for
Price to P price to book value.
which index?
This is like 20 companies which we have selected.
Acha,
Out of these 3,000 odd listed companies, which are below 4,000 crore market cap,
got it.
which have been listed for some time, have like good track record of dividends, of cash flows, and they are not disrupted by any of these risks.
Right.
Just a kind of a bucket, to see how the valuations have fared for these 20 companies. They are of different sectors, and this is just to see the context of how the valuations have fared over the years. That is on the valuation part. In terms of liquidity, more than the screen, you would know, like 2 years back, there were more number of buyers and less number of sellers, right? The similar number of buyers, the orders, when you see Zerodha page for any company, like you see the details, how many people are buying and how many people are selling interest. Less number of buyers were there 2 years back. Now the thing has changed completely. Behaviorally, a lot of things, people used to discuss a lot about small companies on WhatsApp groups. There used to be, every city used to have 2 or 3 events in a week where people were going and discussing their SME stocks. There were SME conferences where promoters of SME companies were giving and giving visions to many retail investors. All of that has reduced quite a lot. I don't see like 200 messages in the morning on many of those WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, some of them have gone completely silent.
silent, right? Which is a very good indicator. And uh, the last person has to become fearful for market to change, right? Which is a quote from George Soros. So till 1 year back, people were saying 6 महीने हो गए मार्केट नहीं चला है,
Hmm.
अभी बस रिकवर होने वाली है, बाय द डिप बाय द डिप. देन दिसंबर आ गया, लोगों ने कहा अब तो 1.5 साल हो गया, अब चलो. But a lot of supply was coming, consistently. IPO markets were hot as late as November 2025, like
Hmm.
just 4 months back. IPO हर एक हफ्ते में 6 कंपनीज लिस्ट हो रही थी. And saying that कि IPOs are going through and still we are in bear market was a very difficult argument to accept.
Right.
So and now that IPOs have stopped, you don't see IPOs opening at 300, 400 up prices from the level they are issuing. So a lot of these behavioral aspects are coming together. Now it's a matter of time when it turns around or it doesn't turn around maybe in the next 1 year. But that time is again certainly very, very fertile to, go and research and buy. And for a person like me who is always 100% invested, I am very actively looking at switching also. People don't appreciate the value of switching. So they think if they have made losses in one particular stock, they should recover it from that particular stock. I think you should be open to switching, book losses, move to some other better name. All of us do a lot of mistakes. This is the time to realize those mistakes and move on, build a portfolio for the next 3 years.
राइट, राइट। तो यहाँ पे एक जैसे एक क्वेश्चन आता है ऑलरेडी पे कि अब आई थिंक जो ये प्रोसेस है मतलब इन इन्वेस्टिंग इन माइक्रो कैप, स्मॉल कैप इन्वेस्टिंग का, so what is a typical checklist type approach that you follow? What are those some of the nuances that you are looking at? एंड जैसे मैंने देखा है कि काफ़ी बारी माइक्रो कैप इन्वेस्टिंग एयर कंडीशन रूम में बैठ के नहीं हो सकती,
Correct, correct.
राइट? तो व्हाई इज़ दैट एन इम्पॉर्टेंट नुआंस? बिकॉज़ ये इसलिए बताना आई थिंक ज़रूरी है क्योंकि काफ़ी लोग मतलब क्या है कि स्क्रीनर या स्टॉक स्कैन से जाके कंपनी के बारे में पढ़ेंगे, फिर एक एनुअल रिपोर्ट पढ़ लेंगे।
Yeah.
शायद से माइक्रो कैप में तो कॉन कॉल्स भी नहीं होती, तो कॉन कॉल्स भी नहीं होंगी। Then they'll look at someone posting on Twitter about that particular stock, and then they'll just go buy. And if the stock crashes, then they'll just go abuse the person who has put on Twitter about
Yeah.
it. So why? So what is the typical process? And अगर एक रिटेल इन्वेस्टर को माइक्रो कैप इन्वेस्टिंग करनी है, तो क्या इसके प्रोज है, क्या इसके कॉन्स हैं? क्योंकि प्रोज तो
Yes.
यही है कि जब साइकिल आती है तो सभी चलते हैं,
Correct.
राइट? बट कॉन्स भी देखने ज़रूरी हैं क्योंकि आज तो हम ऐसी साइकिल में हैं कि मेरा एक बड़ी फेमस कंपनी हुई थी, आईटी सॉफ्टवेयर की कंपनी थी माइक्रो कैप में, जो लोग कहते हैं पावर का कोई सॉल्यूशन प्रोवाइड कर रही है, ऐसा कुछ डिफेंस में भी देगी, ऐसा भी देगी। उसका प्रेफ अनाउंस हुआ था आई थिंक ₹1100 पे।
Does the name start with T?
या इट्स अ वेरी फेमस कंपनी।
Okay.
So the pref was announced at 1000 to 1100 rupees,
Yeah.
and then pref got cancelled। दो pref में पार्टिसिपेट करे तो उन्होंने पार्टिसिपेट नहीं करा। आई थिंक yesterday I was looking at the stock price were 200 rupees, all in a span of 7-8 months।
And people were referring to a lot of famous investors which were part of the shareholding list. They were basing their assumptions on those people's work.
तो ऐसा बहुत हर साइकिल में होता है।
Yeah.
तो ये पिटफॉल्स गौरव जी, पहले पिटफॉल्स अगर आप समझा पाएँगे हमें
Yeah.
कि यार ये क्या-क्या आपने हर्ड भी, मतलब आप तो क्योंकि इस साइकिल में इन्वेस्टिंग इसी स्पेस में कर रहे हो। मैं तो थोड़ा डिस्टेंट ऑब्जर्वर हूँ क्योंकि मैंने इस स्पेस में कम इन्वेस्टमेंट्स करी है। नहीं, मैंने आज तक लाइफ में 5 ही ऐसे स्टॉक्स लिए होंगे जो बिलो 1000 करोड़ मार्केट कैप थे या 300-400 करोड़ के मार्केट कैप के थे। So, what is your thought process and what are the behavioral traits that you see in people when we are close to the peak? And what are the behavioral traits that you see when we are close to the bottom? तो चेकलिस्ट, आई थिंक मैंने आपसे बहुत क्वेश्चंस पूछ लिए। चेकलिस्ट का एक क्वेश्चन, क्या फॉलो करते हो? फिर व्हाट आर द बिहेवियरल ट्रेट्स व्हेन वी आर एट द टॉप एंड वी आर एट द बॉटम? बिकॉज बिहेवियर पकड़ना इस
Yes.
साइकिल में ज़्यादा ईजी है वर्सेस लुकिंग एट द मैथ पार्ट ऑफ इट।
Correct, correct. So let's talk about the behavioral parts.
राइट।
At the peak of the bull market, you will observe yourself opening your open your portfolio like maybe in an hour to see how stocks are going up, right? But you will see a lot of these really small companies who have never ever done any con call. They started conducting a con call. They start hiring IR firms. These IR firms will start approaching a lot of people, right? And you will see heightened activity on Twitter. So a lot of groups will have a lot of chatter about all these companies. You will see more number of IPOs coming from these smaller segment. People will start, referring to large cap companies, saying that it is an IT company trading at 30 PE. This is a small company. It can become a large company. It is a next TCS. It is a next HDFC, right? So all these behavioral parts you will start seeing a lot, right? Similarly, on the bottom end of the market, so there's an analogy which I use a lot, that in the bull market, people start using telescope, right? They go up on their roof and start looking at the stars using the telescope. But while in the bear market, they start reading the news with microscope, right? They want to get to the third or second decimal point. 2 years back, any company announcing getting into solar or announcing their just thinking of getting into defense
Or semiconductor
or
data.
semiconductor data center, the stock price you will not just be able to buy. It will remain on circuits for the next maybe 6 months or 1 year,
Right.
right? They will go for 5x's. Now, just a couple of weeks back, there was this very old company which is into tooling. They announced that aerospace tooling with a 100 crore rupees confirmed order from a tier 1 supplier to Airbus. And that company announced that at 38 rupees, it is currently at 32 rupees. So that is the level of change you will see, happening in the markets. So typically you see all these things, how people are responding to announcements, how people are, responding to IPOs. IPOs are opening at what price. You will look at just before the DRHP being filed, you will see pref happening in the unlisted company at a valuation which is 70% lower than what it is going at the IPO.
Right.
So all these indicators, give you a very clear picture what is happening in the market, but you cannot time it precisely, right? See, in terms of signals, some very relevant behavioral signals, I would say, and which are very visible, is first of all the WhatsApp groups. Everybody and everyone is added to WhatsApp groups. How much chatter is going on? You can also look at this big deal from HNI people. In the bull market, a big deal happens tomorrow. The stock will open on circuits. People will say this is the next big investment from this famous investor.
Right.
Uh, you will also, look at how companies are reacting to these announcements which they are giving out. You will see the frequency of announcements will also increase from the same company. You will see a lot of promoters coming out on the call, giving 5-year ahead or 10-year ahead revenue and PAT targets. And mostly those revenue are like 10x or 20x kind of things. And people will start baking those assumptions, bringing it to the present value and justify the current high stock prices. So once you start seeing all these very, very visible indicators, you can see that, the market has a lot of hotness. Now, obviously, the hotter thing can become further hotter, and prices can go from crazy levels to even more crazy levels. The same thing happens on the other side also. The situation completely changes. No reaction whatsoever to the positive developments. Stock price, a company will deliver a good result. Next day, you will see price down by 10%, right? Similarly, 2 years back when results were coming out, people don't even know whether the results were good or bad.
Mhm.
The stock price were making just 5-10% higher. So you will see no reaction to these bulk deals. You will see like number of pref announcements will be reduced to like virtually zero these days. A lot of companies will not go ahead and promoters themselves will not honor the warrant issue. They will let the 25% advance given, for let the company forfeit that amount.
IPOs on hold चले जाते हैं.
IPOs on hold चले जाते हैं.
Hmm.
So these are like very very visible things which will happen in front of you. But what होता क्या है कि हम लोग इन्वेस्टर होते हैं, हमें लगता है कि यार चल रहा है, ऐसे नहीं कि चलना शुरू हो गया तो बंद हो जाएगा एंड देन लेट्स सिट ऑन कैश. तो हमेशा साइकिलिकल पीक्स पे यू कैन नेवर टेक द राइट कॉल. तो what should be done, and this is what we will cover in your previous question also. How should one go about creating a portfolio? What kind of checklists one should follow, right? So, first of all, you have to know yourself what kind of investor you are. Are you a cyclical investor? Do you like to buy cheap companies? Do you like to buy growing companies? Because this segment offers all the kind of flavors that you want to have. So, just because it is a smaller company doesn't mean that you have to buy cheap, or doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy expensive. You should also know of this fact that this segment doesn't have liquidity, right? The moment you need liquidity, just assume that you are not going to sell this stock at your preference, right? And if you need to sell it, you would have to, put a lot of circuits on a downward. Thirdly, just because it has less liquidity, you can't allocate a lot of your personal capital to this segment. It has to be some relevant portion depending upon your risk appetite and your understanding to this segment. You can take a higher or lower allocation, but stick to that allocation, right? In bull market, you should not try to, increase that allocation, justifying that this can give me extra returns. While in the bear market, which is going on these days, you should not reduce the allocation. Many people I speak to, they are just saying that they are not interested in investing in this segment now. While 2 years back, as you rightly said, right, many of your students, many of your tribe members were asking, they want to become full-time SME investors.
I think ट्राइब मेंबर्स तो काफ़ी इंटेलिजेंट हैं, बट नॉर्मली इन्वेस्टर से मिलता था तो कोई कहता था कि यार ये मतलब मेरे को फुल टाइम ये बनना है। अभी जैसे देयर आर सम केस स्टडीज़ आल्सो व्हिच आई हैव I've known people who made very good money in some of the small mid caps and then they went in and allocated to one SME.
Yes.
तो concentration risk ले लेते हैं at the worst possible time and then that leads to a 50-60% portfolio level drawdown. You can't even sell.
So, if I were just to say, you have to take some allocation call and stick to that allocation call. Then comes the part whether you are a growth investor or a value investor, cyclical investor, or you look for VC kind of companies. You can, start screening companies on that parameter. StockScan, which is your platform screener, has a lot of built-in screens. You can use those screens to arrive at those companies. My preference is, categorize the companies in two parts. One is the company where you are just investing to play the cycle of small caps, right? And the other category is where you are looking for companies to grow meaningfully and a secular growth stories.
Hmm.
So that allocation keeps changing, for me personally.
मतलब cyclical versus structurals.
Cyclical versus structural. But when you analyze any company, you can have some kind of a viewpoint that any company can be a structural growth story, but the reality is very different.
Hmm.
There was this news article written by some good research house in India. Forgetting the name, they said less than 1% of small cap companies transition to become mid caps or large caps.
Right.
So that chances of success is just 1%. If you are aiming to hold a small cap stock for 10 years, thinking that will become a large cap, probability wise, it is just 1% probability. But if you want to say a 500 crore company, can it become a 2000 crore company in the next 3 years? There can be a lot of such cases. And it will happen and it won't even figure in the mid cap, but you will end up making a lot of good absolute returns. So for the first category of stock where you are just playing the cyclical, either the small cap or the industry, we would try to focus on companies which are listed for some time, where the balance sheet is clean, where the company has some 10 years of history of cash flows or balance sheet, whatever they committed on their balance sheets, whether they have delivered or not delivered, what kind of actions they have taken. You have everything in front of you. Based on that, you can take an informed call. You should not go beyond 5-6% in any company, because when the cycle turns, every stock makes money, right? But in this drawdown, you have to save money. You have to survive first, right? And if you over allocate to one particular company, if it goes in a lot, you will become defensive. You will not be able to play on your front foot. So have a reasonable allocation in mind. For me, it is maximum 5-6% at my cost price. I won't go beyond that for any company, because the number of companies are so much, number of opportunities are so much. I can diversify myself. Balance sheet risk you should avoid. Forensics risk you should be aware of. There is no clean company as such. Right? If you say, this company has no governance thing, hardly 5 or 6 companies in India would be in that category. Right?
Right.
So you should know at what valuation does that forensic risk gets priced in. Once you do that, then you move on to the second category where you are okay to hold companies for a longer time. You are okay to pay a bit more than what you would pay for the first category of stocks. But there you have to do a lot of channel checks. These could be the companies which are recently listed, or this could be the companies which were listed before, who are exiting certain segments, getting into new segments. There you need more, involved strategy. You need to meet companies. You need to interact with promoters, visit their factories, understand what is their competitive positioning after speaking to their vendors, to their competitors, to their customers, and that's how you form a view. Okay, this company is figuring out on all those parameters. On my challenge checks, it is certainly figuring better. Valuation, okay, it is a bit higher than what the other category cyclical stocks are trading at. But this company has a lot of big opportunity size, can grow meaningfully, and I can hold it for 3 to 5 years. So if you use these two frameworks for these two category of stocks, then I think a portfolio can really deliver really good returns. Now, in terms of allocation, which category of it should be how much, and it's very very custom personalized, right? A person with a growth mindset or a person who is only for looking for growth, he will ultimately have more of category 2 kind of stocks, right? For a person like me who is looking for more of cyclical flavor, I will have more of category 1 kind of stock. So it's very, very individualistic in nature. But this segment has to have some part of your portfolio, be it 5% or 20%. It's ultimately your choice.
For you, how much is cyclical versus structural?
As of now, 80% of my portfolio is into cyclical, where I am playing either the small cap or micro cap cyclical recovery, or I'm playing the industrial recovery. and 20% is growth. Because I know buying a growth company is one thing, holding to a growth company is another thing, right?
Right.
So you can buy best of the best companies and they'll have drawdown of maybe 40%, right? And ultimately it can be a 10x.
Hmm.
So you can never be certain that a growth company will be a growth company after 5 years. In this age of disruption, so many news flow, it becomes really difficult to hold on to them. So my preference has always been on the category one of.
Interesting. Right.
A couple of examples, which comes to mind, which worked really well, in the previous cycle, 2020, 2021, small IT companies, right? First, if you remember, after June, July, right, of 2020, a lot of IT stocks started moving up. So first, large cap stocks moved up, and the work was percolating down to these smaller companies. And those smaller companies were still trading at 8, 9x. They were listed for like for 12, 13 years, throwing cash flow every year. And you could see from their con calls that they're getting more order visibility. But still, nobody was interested to touch them, right? So it was a perfect chance to buy those IT companies, and the returns have been phenomenal. Even if you were not able to sell them at the peak, you were able to sell like say 30% lower than the peak, you would have made like 6, 7x over a 2-year period. So as of now, a lot of those segments give opportunities. Innerwear companies, which were darling like 2 years back, now a couple of innerwear companies, they are even lower in terms of absolute prices than March 2020 lows, right? In terms of revenue, they have grown from that segment, from that level. In terms of balance sheet, the balance sheets have become stronger. And now a person who is playing a devil's advocate can say that pricing pressure is there, it's a textile company, this, that, and that is why you're certainly getting it cheap. And but if you go and spend time in that sector, and if you form a view that over a 2-year period or a 3-year period, pricing discipline can come to these industry, whatever EBITDA margin single digit they are making and peak were 24%, can it go to 14% kind of EBITDA? So you will find this company trading at just 3, 4x that fat. I'm not saying that this will happen or not happen.
Right.
I'm saying if you approach the portfolio and make a portfolio in this way, then somewhere something will work out, and things which will work out will take care of the returns that will lose in things which will not work out. So that's why the allocation is really important. Having 4 to 5% kind of an allocation on an average, having 30 odd companies for this particular portfolio, and holding on to them, not just selling because markets are falling, sell them because your investment thesis breaks down, right? And if you hold on to them for 2 to 3 years, you will find yourself, or you will discover that this segment of portfolios would have created more wealth than any other part of portfolio.
Right.
The volatility will also be killing.
हाँ, मतलब maybe volatility isn't a risk if you understand what you're doing,
Yes.
but volatility is definitely a risk if you don't understand your positions inside out in this space.
Correct.
तो इसमें यार मैनेजमेंट चेक कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है, क्योंकि मतलब अगेन ये मेरी एक केस स्टडी है कि मतलब अ, जैसे ट्विटर पे क्या था कि समवन वाज राइटिंग ये तो इंटेलिजेंट फैनेटिक मैनेजमेंट है।
हाँ,
तो लकीली मेरे को उनसे एक मीटिंग मिल गई, तो आई जस्ट वेंट टू सी द प्लांट एंड स्टफ। नाउ द प्लांट वाज लाइक अ स्मॉल गोडाउन एंड दे वर मेकिंग समथिंग दैट वाज वेरी बेसिक। मतलब बट अगर आप ट्विटर पढ़ते तो आपको लगता है यार ये तो कोई प्रिसिजन टूलिंग कर रहे हैं।
yeah.
एंड इट वाज सो बेसिक कि मतलब इट वाज वेरी टफ फॉर मी टू सॉर्ट ऑफ लाइक आई हैव अ स्ट्रेट फेस थ्रू आउट बिकॉज कि नैरेटिव ऐसा इन्वेस्टर्स ने फैला दिया था कंपनी में कि यार ये तो बहुत ही नेक्स्ट लेवल है। और जाके जब आपने देखा तो इन्होंने कहा यार ये तो कुछ है ही नहीं। तो मैनेजमेंट चेक करना और सीइंग इज बिलीविंग जो इस सेक्टर में है माइक्रो कैप की कितना इंपॉर्टेंट रहता है। आई थिंक आपने गौरव जी आपसे जो बात हो रही थी तो आप काफ़ी बारी एजीएम्स पे भी गए हैं जहाँ पे कोई और इन्वेस्टर नहीं आता काफ़ी बारी।
Correct.
तो हाउ इम्पोर्टेंट ऑफ अ रोल दैट एस्पेक्ट प्लेज?
A lot, I would say, for companies who are not doing calls. AGM is also just for marking the checklist from SEBI or from MCA. Uh, there it becomes very important to meet them, right? But in bull market, what happens? A lot of these promoters are trained, right? For a half an hour to 1 hour conversation with investors, they're trained. What people ask, what they should tell. And we investors like to know a lot about numbers. And a lot of these promoters, right? I'm not naming any one of them. They would know what to tell you. So that's why factory visits become very important and very helpful in this way. Because when you do a factory visit, it's not a 1 hour session. It's a 4 to 5 hour session. You go, you interact with the team, you interact with the employees, you then see the promoter, his actions. He's there in front of you for 5 hours, right? and he'll be like his true self in those 5 hours. You will be able to judge a lot from a person's point of view if you spend 5 hours with him, right, as compared to just half an hour, where it is a guided meeting session. So when you go and meet the managements in their plants, you will also meet the employees. In one case, what happened, we asked the security guard, "आपकी क्या shift रहती है? मतलब how much time do you come?" And he unknowingly said, "हम लोग तो आज आए हैं, 15 दिन बाद आए हैं आज." And while the promoter was saying that this month our utilization was 80%, right? So those small tidbits and bits give you a lot of information. But plant visits are definitely very important in this case, at least for companies who are not being called, who are recently listed. That's why I have a bit of an aversion from newly listed companies, because it becomes very difficult to do those kind of channel checks because information is just not there. They are trained by their merchant bankers, and they know what to speak, how to speak. So it becomes difficult for an outsider like me to judge them. So that's why I try to stay away from these newly listed companies. But at the same time, I am not like virtually shunning them off because they are newly listed. So the balance is somewhere in between.
तो मतलब अनलिस्टेड कंपनीज़ में जैसे कि एक्सेस टू इन्फॉर्मेशन कम हो जाता है काफ़ी बारी।
या जो अभी न्यूली लिस्टेड कंपनीज हैं,
हाँ,
उसमें आपके पास नंबर्स ही नहीं है कुछ देखने के लिए।
मतलब न्यूली लिस्टेड एंड अनलिस्टेड कंपनीज़
हाँ,
दोनों में, राइट?
करेक्ट, नंबर्स ही नहीं है। वो 3 साल पहले नंबर्स कुछ 2% प्रॉफिट मार्जिन बना रहा होगा, राइट? आज वो 15% बना रहा है। You will say कि sir, why, what has led to this profit margin expansion? He'll give you some theory, I have gotten into higher margin territory, this, that. While the reality could be he must be not be showing taxes, no, not be showing profits to our taxes.
राइट।
That you will never know. But imagine for a company which is there for 6 years listed, you have seen their financials, you see all the line items in the P&L, you can see which line item is going higher or lower as percentage of sales. And then you can figure out a normalized EBITDA margin yourself without even asking the management. Right?
राइट।
So that really helps, as an investing philosophy in this particular segment. So a preference to already listed companies should be higher in my view for a person looking to invest in this category.
नाउ अ क्वेश्चन दैट आल्सो राइजेस कि अब देखो हर जगह रिस्क तो होते हैं, तो
Hmm.
आपका सेलिंग फ्रेमवर्क कैसे रहता है इसमें?
Yes.
विद सम एग्जांपल्स, मे बी नॉट नेमिंग कंपनीज, आप इंडस्ट्री स्पेसिफिक एग्जांपल दे सकते हो कंपनी का। एंड हाउ डू यू डू रिस्क मैनेजमेंट इन सच अ एनवायरनमेंट?
See, selling is a difficult decision, more difficult than buying, and certainly you can never be perfect about it. But couple of things, at least for the first category of stock where you are playing the cyclical recovery in the small caps, is what kind of peak valuations they have traded in the past, right? And certainly you don't want to wait for them to go to those levels and then only you will sell. So at any point of time, you should be aware what kind of PE they are trading at. What are the other companies in your watch list, right? Like personally, a person who is active in this segment, he would be tracking at least 50, 60 companies, out of which 10, 15 would be a part of his portfolio. Now, one company, suppose it does really well. Now, the question is whether the company can do really well from here also, like in terms of stock price and in terms of business performance, or a company which has not done well but can do really well in terms of business performance and it's part of your watch list. Should you switch on to this particular second company which is like your watch list? So it's a continuous process. We get it wrong a lot. Like one motor company, we were buying below book value, right? Like Force Motors, we discussed. We ended up selling less than 10,000 rupees today. It's a 25,000 rupees stock. But at that time also, it was looking that we have made a crazy returns. It is trading at the higher end of its valuation, but the company kept on performing. It became a growth company, right? And now it has come to a stage where it's single product, Urbania, is like pan India, killing it.
I actually studied the company at 8,700 or 9,000. I was actually I was very interested into it. Right.
So, and you imagine the presentation came when the price is 22,000 rupees. The first ever presentation from the company, investor presentation, right?
I think we were lucky कि हमारे पास AGM के last 2-3 years के notes आ गए थे.
Nice.
So that is where it
Yeah.
was very interesting. But same company,
Yeah.
different types of people,
Correct.
different types of investing philosophy,
And very
different market caps,
And very different outcomes.
very different outputs.
Yes. So, selling is something which you have to be cutthroat about. We are okay letting the gains go. We are very concerned about the kind of valuations they are trading at. So we are okay selling them even before they arrive at the fair value because we have a lot of other companies which are there in the pipeline or in the watch list. So selling framework is again and again only hinged on valuations. you should not give too much importance to what management is saying will happen after 2 or 3 years, because a promoter will only like give you aspirations. Difference between guidance and aspiration is very thin in the bull market.
Right.
So rather than relying on this thing and remembering this particular fact that only less than 1% of small caps or micro cap companies have become mid caps, will always make you more realistic and end up selling on the way up rather than be stuck at the top.
तो इसमें एक और भी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है क्योंकि काफ़ी लोग टेक्निकल्स भी करते हैं। बट एज़ पर माय एक्सपीरियंस टिल नाउ अभी तो वैसे 8-9 हज़ार करोड़ तक की कंपनी में भी टेक्निकल्स डोंट मैटर बिकॉज़ देयर इज़ नो लिक्विडिटी।
Yes.
But generally, in market caps below 4 to 5,000 crores, technical analysis in India, because of very less free float market cap,
Yes.
doesn't work as
It
per
doesn't work.
what I've seen.
Yes. Yes.
Right. But what do you think?
I totally agree with your point. And like a milk company, without naming it, which was getting into a lot of new categories. It broke some 8 year or 10 year
Well, 8 to 10 year basically breakout आया,
breakout act, right?
long term breakout आया.
Long term breakout
हाँ.
act, right? And from there, like if you see any WhatsApp group, everybody was saying this is a technical breakout, buy. From there, the stock price is down on 40%, right? So
By 40%.
by 40%.
अच्छा.
Right. So I generally don't look at technical parameters a lot. And many of the people have advised me to look at them. It can make your buying and selling better. I have generally not used it because it is not very relevant for the market cap I operate in. I think it is not relevant for companies at 10,000 crore also because of liquidity issues. I think it is very relevant for companies like 50, 16,000 crore where there are like thousands and lakhs of buyers, like, who are in aggregate making price actions. But I've never, really spent too much time on technical side.
Because of the market cap, because of market cap.
We operate.
तो इज ऑल्सो इम्पॉर्टेंट नुआंस जो भी रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स ये देख रहे हैं कि अगर आप 500 करोड़ की कंपनी में जाके स्टेज एनालिसिस कर रहे हैं या टेक्निकल एनालिसिस कर
Yeah.
रहे हैं, it might not just altogether make sense.
Nobody bothers about the fair value. There's no fair value of this market cap, right?
Right.
So you can do asset valuation, SOTP valuation, and arrive at one good conservative figure. And the company would be trading at 50% lower than that conservatively arrived SOTP, and you buy it and it can further go 50% below that, right?
राइट। तो यहाँ पे गौरव एक क्वेश्चन इस व्हिच आई वाज थिंकिंग अबाउट कि फ्रॉम व्हाट आई हैव अंडरस्टूड टिल नाउ इज दैट कि जब मार्केट बहुत सस्ती हो जाए तो अक्यूमुलेशन का टाइम है, स्पेशली इन माइक्रो कैप एंड स्मॉल कैप्स। जब मार्केट बहुत महंगी हो जाए तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का टाइम है। तो एक यहाँ पे जो क्वेश्चन रहता है कि यार आपने अक्यूमुलेट कर लिया ठीक टाइम पे 8-8 10-10 पी के स्टॉक ले लिए, फिर आपने डिस्ट्रीब्यूट भी कर दिया, बेच भी दिए। मतलब तब एवरेज पी, मीडियन पी 35, 40, 50 होगी माइक्रो कैप्स की। तो उस टाइम पे व्हाई नॉट जस्ट डू बिट मोर ऑफ एसेट एलोकेशन एंड रिड्यूस योर एक्सपोजर टू माइक्रो कैप्स ऑल टुगेदर।
Yeah.
तो हाउ डू यू थिंक अबाउट दैट एस्पेक्ट? क्योंकि क्या होता है कि अब बुल मार्केट बेयर मार्केट का एक सेंटिमेंट का तो एक आइडिया सबको लग ही जाता है। दिस अ क्वेश्चन व्हिच आई आस्क्ड माई सेल्फ ऑल्सो,
Yes.
बिकॉज कि यार क्यों मतलब एकदम पीक बुल मार्केट में इन्वेस्टेड है ना, क्या पता कैश होल्डिंग्स बढ़ा लें। तो हाउ डू यू थिंक अबाउट दिस?
See, it's a very subjective call, and even though one can be very knowledgeable about it or very practical about it, but when it comes to bull market, we behave very different,
Right.
right? We making every day you open your portfolio, it is going up 2% higher, right? You think, okay, let it go higher. Why unnecessary? I am disrupting the compounding. There is a very very cool phrase on Twitter, and don't disturb the compounding, right? So all those frameworks and all those lines start coming to mind, and you also get invested in the bull market. But yeah, at bull market, if one can take that allocation call to reduce a certain percentage from these micro and small cap companies, it can certainly add a lot of value. I in my network of investors, nobody has been able to do it very perfectly, right? Because what happens is when you take certain call off, because in when this segment is making money and when you're taking that allocation call, you can be rest assured that the entire market would be in a severe, like, crazy bull phase, right? That's why this market is making a new high, right? So at that time, it essentially comes down to it that you are taking an allocation call. Either you go to cash or you go to some other different asset, right? uh, yeah, for a liquidity investor like myself, uh, I generally do not invest in any other asset, right? Which is not a right thing to do, and neither I'm propagating everyone to do it. But if somebody can take that kind of a call to take some money out from the equities and invest in other alternative assets, by all means, if one has the expertise to do it, they should do it. I have certainly never done it in the last 15 years.
Right.
And even though I have had crazy drawdowns of like 3 crazy drawdowns I have had, this one is the fourth one which I'm going through. But the ultimate
And how deep the drawdowns go sometimes?
60%,
Is
60% drawdown one kind. As
on a portfolio level.
on a portfolio level, March 2020, I was down 60% from the peak.
Then people who are watching this should understand कि नेचर ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग है, वहां से प्रॉब्ली आपका 3-4 टाइम्स भी पैसा हुआ होगा पोर्टफोलियो लेवल पे
12x हुआ है.
नेक्स्ट 4 years, राइट? बट टू गो टू दैट 12x you also need to be able to take it on the chin, राइट? कि अब 60% ड्रॉडाउन भी मतलब आपको ऐसी टाइप ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग में हो सकता है,
There comes a time, like it was in March 2020,
राइट?
there were a couple of stocks which are in the portfolio and some which are outside the portfolio. Now you keep on grappling with this idea कि I should sell this and buy this, or you should continue holding what you are doing it. So my activity, like the activity level reduced a lot, because what to do? You are holding a cheap company and then you will sell it a cheap company and buy some other cheap company. It doesn't really make a difference, right? Out of 30 companies, you can do 2 or 3 just to satisfy your mental urge that, okay, I have done certain action, but it generally doesn't lead to any result. So once you go through that pain, and
Right.
you know that companies are not going to go bankrupt.
Hmm.
And if, like in COVID, this was my thinking. If world comes back,
Right.
then we'll make a lot of money. And if the world doesn't come back, then what is the use of this portfolio, right? So this was the thinking I had in March 2020.
तो बेसिकली मतलब अगर पोर्टफोलियो आपका 100 रुपीज़ का था तो 40 रुपीज़ हुआ,
40 boost like it.
फिर 40 रुपीज़ से वापस 480 चला गया, अगर 12 टाइम्स वहाँ से हो गया
Correct.
तो मोटा
And
मोटा
from there, it has come down by 18%.
बाय
18%.
18%, तो माने वापस 400 के आसपास आ गया, 400, 410, 420 के बीच में,
Correct.
राइट? सो दिस इज द नेचर ऑफ volatility, I think, is type of
Yes.
investing, and I think a lot of retail investors who are watching this should understand this also,
Yes.
right? And that's the nature of the beast in this space.
And the one reason I think now the drawdowns are lesser than those previous peaks is because as an investor, you also evolved.
Correct.
Right? Before in 2018-19, I was also carried away with a lot of stories. You burn hands, you then make a process to not do the same mistake again, and you end up saving yourself. Right.
Right.
So this time, by luck or maybe by skill, today I don't have that answer that I was able to sell a couple of really high names and got into better risk reward names which had fallen a lot.
क्योंकि मीडियन ड्रॉडाउन अगर 60-65 है तो 18% उस स्पेस में तो फिर नथिंग ही हो गया ना, मतलब रिलेटिव आउट परफॉर्मेंस ही होगी काफी.
So I don't judge myself or at the primes for whom we manage.
Right.
We don't judge ourselves again any index like microcap. We judge ourselves how the median drawdown has happened and how our portfolio drawdown has happened. Now that drawdown could be 2x than what happened in any index, right? But
Right.
that generally has no context to it.
But this was very useful, Gaurav, because a lot of times people think कि micro cap investing means multi-baggers.
Yeah.
But to be able to go to heaven, one has to die.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
To get multi-baggers, one has to go through these drawdowns.
Yes.
So you coming honestly and telling people कि यार इस लेवल तक के पोर्टफोलियो पे ड्रॉडाउन हो जाते हैं.
Correct.
So I think this will give them a reality picture also कि if they are fit enough mentally to do this or not, because at the bull market everyone wants to be a ज्ञानी of micro cap investing, but बेयर हम लोग ये पॉडकास्ट बेयर मार्केट पे क्यों कर रहे हैं?
Correct.
आई डोंट नो इस पे कितने लोग देखेंगे नहीं देखेंगे, बट होपफुली दे गेट अ ट्रू पिक्चर ऑफ व्हाट द रियलिटी ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग इन स्मॉल कंपनीज इज. You have to live with volatilities. You can't escape.
Now that we have scared many people away, let's paint some positive picture also.
Right.
In bull market, you can be invested anywhere. Like you can pick any company,
Throw a dart.
It will make money.
Right.
And the shittier the company you buy,
The better it is. Right.
So the idea of doing research and doing all the hard work, channel checks, is to ensure that the company which you are buying doesn't go down as much as the median drawdown is.
अब बैठने की पावर है.
बैठने की power आ जाए.
Otherwise, if you are not able to sit through the entire thing.
Yes.
So
The first stock you are going to sell in bear market is the one where you don't know anything about.
correct.
Maybe it's a next 10 bagger. You don't know.
Confidence नहीं है.
Confidence thing.
Right.
So that's why the reason one has to do research.
Now, Gaurav, coming to the last question, कि for a retail investor or for a young investor who's looking at this particular segment, or for any investor who's looking at this particular segment, क्योंकि आप तो practitioner हो, तो what will be your piece of advice for them? Any book that you will suggest, or any blogs that you will suggest them to read, or any of the past case studies that you will ask them to do so that they have a better gut to handle the volatility in this type of a market environment?
Correct, correct. Very relevant question. So, in terms of books, there is this book written by, forgetting the name of author, it's Bulls, Bears and Beasts.
Santosh Nair.
Santosh Nair. Yeah. So it has captured like last 30 years of, Indian stock relevant stories and examples, and what kind of narratives, play out in individual stocks. So if one reads that book, and he can figure out, that the similar kind of narratives which were thrown like 2 years back, right, from promoters to retail investors, the similar kind of things have happened always, right? The other book which I really like is the Richer, Wiser, Happier. It gives you a lot of ways to think about of different investment philosophy. I had this particular belief that every strategy makes money. You have to follow it consistently, and you should know that you're following it.
Right.
So be very very sure of the kind of temperament you have. Uh, One blog which I particularly like for relevant for this microcap is by Ian Castle. They also have a community of microcap club. They also have a lot of podcasts on YouTube. It gives you a lot of different frameworks to think about how should one look at these small companies, right? So these three things matter a lot. One book also which like I genuinely feel is Shoe Dog. It's a story of Nike.
Phil Knight.
Yes. So that story tells, that guy was doing a job while running a company, and what kind of challenges come while scaling up a small company to a bigger company. That books tell how difficult it is for a small company to become a big company. That gives you a lot of realistic picture. Then when people say that this is the next HDFC Bank, or this is small paint company is the next Asian Paints. So what kind of challenges one can see by in that transition. So these are the certain things which one should definitely read. Case study wise, I think one thing which definitely one should do is go back and read Gensol promoters con call and annual reports. What kind of things people said. Go and read the discussions happening on Twitter. Read the discussion happening on Value Picker about Gensol.
Right.
See what people were. When I say people, the retail investors were kind of building in. Then look at the cash flows, look at the debt schedules, look at the auditors, and then try to assimilate, what would have happened that time when people were gung-ho about it and what happened today, right? So these kind of examples, you can also look at, one IPO company which had just one Yamaha dealership, and it came out for IPO. It gathered 1,500, like 2,000 crore worth of money, just like IPO money.
मैंने इतना लोगों ने वो सब्सक्राइब कर दिया था.
ओवर सब्सक्राइब था कि 1500 करोड़ का, आप सोचिए, मतलब उसका रेवेन्यू वाज जस्ट व्हाट 10-12 crore rupees in a year. Those kind of stories, when you look at, you get the reality check. Like, this kind of accidents are very normal. So one has to create those processes. You have to focus on survival. If you survive in this segment, uh, you will make crazy amount of money. So survival is important. And even though it's a very easy thing to say, but it's very difficult to practice. Because in bull markets, you will, get into the stories. It will come to your mind that you should take more concentration risks. What will happen in bull markets, like a majority of your portfolio would go up 3 or 4x, right? So you start thinking, I should have put more money in this particular stock, which you will do at the peak of the markets. And when the pain happens, it will fall back at 70%, and you will lose all the wealth that you would have created in that bear to bull market.
Right.
So it's important to just keep the allocation thing in mind. And survival, another thing which will happen if you focus on balance sheet, focus on cash flows, not on just P&L and on narratives and on con call guidance. And I think one can do really well.
Yeah, so I think that perfectly sums it up. Survival is the only road to riches. Allocation पे ध्यान दीजिए. इमोशंस पे ध्यान दीजिए बिकॉज सेंटिमेंट साइकिल्स होती है डिस्पेयर की, यूफोरिया की, होप की, फिर होपलेसनेस की, फिर अब्यूजिंग द गवर्नमेंट की जो आजकल जैसे चल रही है, अब्यूजिंग ऑरेंज वैन. हर ऑरेंज वैन की साइकिल चल रही है. इट्स आई थिंक दैट इज व्हाट गिव्स होपफुली व्यूअर्स द करेक्ट पिक्चर ऑफ व्हाट माइक्रो एंड स्मॉल कैप इन्वेस्टिंग इज, and not what everyone wishes it to be. It's just one line upwards, because there is also one line which comes down as well. Right. So thank you so much for doing this, Gaurav. And hopefully viewers जो आपकी top 5 की learnings थी, do let us know in the comment section below कि आपकी 5 top learnings क्या थी. And was this a podcast which was an eye opener for you when it comes to the nature of SME and small cap investing? So thank you once again, Gaurav. सो इन कंक्लूजन ऑफ दिस वीडियो हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि माइक्रो कैप इन्वेस्टिंग में कैसे बुल और बेयर मार्केट साइकिल्स होती हैं कि बेयर मार्केट साइकिल में आई थिंक गौरव ऑल्सो मेंशन कि 60% का ड्रॉडाउन हो जाता है। बुल मार्केट में मल्टीफोल्ड रिटर्न्स आते हैं। तो एक चीज़ है कि इस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम में लिक्विडिटी इवैपोरेट हो जाती है इस सेक्टर में। तो ये रिटेल इन्वेस्टर्स को इस एरिया की साइक्लिकलिटी होपफुली समझ आएगी। देन वी सॉ कि चेकलिस्ट ऑन हाउ टू ऑपरेट इन दिस स्पेस। देन चेकलिस्ट के साथ-साथ हमने देखा कि व्हाट टाइप ऑफ कंपनीज टू स्टडी एंड आल्सो वी सॉ कि what is the true reality of the micro cap investing. Hopefully this is a podcast that you'll remember for times to come, because this is a podcast which is coming at a time when no one wants to even talk about micro caps. With this, Jai Hind.